Welcome to Inform TV. I'm Alan Repke, Alexandria, Minnesota. Today we're going to take a look at Mitt Romney, and we're going to take a look at some of the things that are unfolding in his campaign right prior to the South Carolina election to see how he comes out in that. And so we're doing a little bit of thought process ahead of his third election route. Yet at the same time, we're going to take a look at some of the things the president said a previous day, and relating to the Keystone Pipeline that I've mentioned here, that I think is very important for all of us as citizens of this great nation, struggling with the price of energy, struggling with a price that affects our lives in a huge way. And yet at the same time, we have things going on outside our boundary. We just pulled out of Iraq. Iran is threatening to block the strait there, where a huge part of the oil goes out, and yet our president makes a decision to stop a pipeline, at least stop it temporarily until some additional studies are taking place. And I think that's extremely unfortunate for all of us. In fact, today when I was preparing for this program, looking for some advertisers to actually show you what that pipeline looks like, hopefully some of the people in the Alexandria area here, or some of you people coming down the freeway, stopping at a particular restaurant or business out in the freeway area out there. I've got a chunk of that pipeline. I wanted to show it to you, but I'm trying to get a place to leave it at that I can get some advertising revenue so I can afford to be on the air and see that you people are informed in a unique way with real information of things that are going on in your life that you're not aware of by the traditional press, or quite see a different angle to that. And clearly this pipeline, with the price of energy and the demand for energy now and in the future, the Bakken in western North Dakota now talked having the ability to produce 1 million barrels of oil per day. We definitely need a pipeline, people. We need that pipeline in the ground, not just for jobs, which the Republicans are talking about. We need it for energy, and we need it for energy security, and we need it in a way to see that energy prices also have the potential to come down. And so this day, I hope you can put in a plug for some of the Alexandria area businesses of, hey, help Repke out, let him put this pipeline, do a little advertising with him, and so we can be informed in a unique way. With that, I've also gotten a little habit of saying, what do I offer to you? Maybe you do not like what I say. One day I talk about the Republicans, one day I talk about the Democrats, one day I challenge business, one day I challenge labor. But the reality is you're going to be informed on an issue in a unique way. And one of the things with the political tales on Romney, the Today Show had Chris Christie on there, the Republican #1 choice by many of the insiders in the Republican Party. And they talked about his weight, of course. He's in here. Here we got a Republican candidate that cannot even control his weight. And obviously, looking at me, I struggle constantly and was starting to lose some weight before Christmas and put some back on. But the issue is, I'm going to give you a little tip, and I'd like to pass it on to Christy if we could. One little thing that I find when I actually get on my diet and actually start losing some weight, which I'm finally doing now again, is I go to Walmart, or you can get them in any grocery store, fruit and gel. And why do I bring this up to you? You got a husband, or you are a man that do not like yogurt or low-fat pudding. Here, this fruit and gel is only 25 calories. It's got a little bit of fruit in the bottom, and obviously it goes in the refrigerator. And yes, you can make jelly yourself cheaper, but it's in a proportional size that's quite rewarding in the evening. You were sitting down for TV or right before bed, if you want a little something. That fruit and gel, I think all the Walmarts have them. Ramondo's fruit and gel. Just the thought process of addressing that weight. And we'll get back to Christie's issues in a little bit, but I think it's important that we have to look at what these political parties and the mainstream media is telling us about what's going on in our business world. Lately I've been working to expand the reach of Inform TV so I can get advertisers to help me fund this, so I can bring people in. I want to start interviewing people, and I'm going to start doing that very shortly, but ad revenue is the #1 thing I need at this point in time, and I've got to expand my reach a little bit and soon be on select TV in the area as well. But anyway, we're going to take a look here. As you can see, Mitt Romney roughed up in 2-punch along the GOP primary. And this day, this Thursday, the 19th of January, when Romney finds out, or at least it's questionable by the Des Moines Register, that he maybe didn't win now the Iowa primary. And Rick Perry today decided to bow out. And as he bowed out, he gave his support to Newt Gingrich. So here we've got a candidate that thought he had won the 2 primaries, Iowa and New Hampshire, that no other Republican had did. Now it looks like he's maybe 1-1, as this article in the Miami Herald shows us today. And his opponent, Perry, the governor of Texas, it turned out to be really a disastrous candidate, way overbuilt. I don't know where they found this guy. But anyway, he switches to Gingrich, and he's not very nice to the front-leading candidate. And the Republicans find themselves in a situation do the Republicans really want somebody to beat Obama? Or do they want somebody that falls in their realm of the term conservative? I think the Republicans are doing themselves a great disservice. I think this whole campaign, I think this whole process is a great disservice to the country, people. I was a firm believer that we need a true global leader, a globalist like a Rex Tillerson that can address all the issues and has a resume second to none. And yet it appears that our logical choice is going to be Romney, and yet he continues to get beat up in a very fierce way by his Republican Party folks. And I think we have to be questioning the Republicans as far as what is your goal here? Is your goal to see that the conservative entourage, philosophy, whatever that may be, goes forward, or we have a true person that can make some needed change in this country? Or are independent type people like myself going to have to hold their nose and vote for Obama again? This is the real issue the Republican Party needs to look at, and you people that view yourself as key Republicans. What really do we need to do? Do we really need to get a true change in the presidency? The numbers surely show that we do. You know, in a previous show, go to informtv.com. You can look at the Treasury statement that we talked about there in a previous program. It clearly shows that we need some changes. Yet, the Republicans keep beating up on themselves in, I would say, in a non-productive way. And yet, at the same time, this whole process of what the Republicans stand for, we in the middle have to be asking some tough questions. And one of the things that I found this week And what I think should be front and center as far as a change to start addressing this deficit and addressing it immediately, as well as our long-term debt now that is over $15 trillion, was reading in a column about taxation. The Bush-era tax cuts are going to end by the end of 12. And many people say, well, we have to have a Republican in there so they don't end. But the numbers clearly show this should be the argument for election 2012, both for Congress and our presidential election. That we need candidates that are going to show us two things. We need a major new revenue stream coming in to address the budget and the debt, and we need to make major cuts in spending. And this old kick the can philosophy down the road, like the Europeans are doing, and we continue to do, we're just going to grow our way out of it. People, growth is a mirage. The developing countries with the internet, with education worldwide, growth is no longer a factor. Good old hardcore bringing in more revenue and cutting spending is what it's going to take to address the issue. And the point that I came across reading an ag article today, and my old philosophy of telling you ag is a great way to keep up on what's going on in the economy, and a challenge to Romney as well as the Republicans this week is, I think the number, not that I just think, the numbers show we need to end the Bush-era tax cuts right now. And why? The tax cuts that will end at the end of this year are costing us about $380 billion a year. Yes, $380 billion a year. But if we would take that $380 billion and apply that $380 billion and the tax cut, Bush area tax cuts right now, and apply that money going forward, a minimum of $380 billion a year to eliminate the debt, do you realize without any interest being paid on that almost $15.5 trillion worth of debt right now, it would take 40 years to eliminate that at $380 billion per year. Just think of that, people. Yet the Republicans think we should just keep that tax cut. We have to have that revenue and additional revenue plus major cuts in our spending processes. And the other thing that I looked at this week is, what has Romney learned along the campaign trail? When he goes into South Carolina now, and he's talking now with more common people, he's talking to people that are struggling with their homes more so than in Iowa or New Hampshire, Vermont, that area. Tends to be wealthy areas, especially with high-priced corn now. What did he really learn? And I'll start out with this, that he should have learned and should have been his opening line, or he should start being his opening line, or whoever is going to be the Republican nominee. It should be when they talked, and Romney talked about his tax returns of only paying 15%, yet he's worth $250 million and likely maybe an income of over $1 million, only pays about 15% tax rate. People, a 15% tax rate does not balance the budget, does not have the funds to address our long-term debt that also must disappear. What has this guy been hearing on the trail? And I'll suggest this. He's been hearing, he's in Iowa, in farm country, in an area where jobs are doing well because of a booming agriculture, and he's been with the little old ladies and the investors that say, hey, we want the same 15% rate you have. In fact, these landowners in Iowa, if they have a piece of ground, they only have to have 160 acres of ground right now to be worth about $1.2 million. And a 15% tax rate, if they would sell 160 acres of farmland in Iowa right now with an average value of $6,700 an acre, they could sell that 160 acres, pay the 15%, and still have $1 million worth of cash, and say they were an absentee landowner that inherited 160 acres, which is very common, of course, and were living in Chicago or LA or New York and wanted to move to New Hampshire or Vermont and retire. Just think of the benefits. So we have a presidential candidate that hasn't really been talking or listening to the right people. He's not hearing the struggles, or he doesn't understand. Here was the point that I tried to make and lost my train of thought for a second. Why hasn't Romney and the Republican candidates been talking about taxation just like Warren Buffett? We cannot give a guy that has everything, allow him to get by with 15%. Yet we're doing that, and we're doing things by allowing things such as accelerated depreciation. We've talked about in a previous program here how they basically just write off the tax. People, we have to understand the so-called increase in our economy is based on unbelievable tax reductions, taking things such as grain bins and machine sheds and write them off in 1 year and eliminating tax. It's unheard of. These are political perks that we cannot afford. And the economy is so-called recovering not because of sound economics. It's recovering because of these voodoo economics and these uncontrollable, outrageous a tax deduction policy. And one of the things that shows us our economy truly isn't recovering is the years of what a vehicle has. They say today the average car and light truck is about 11 years old. People, if our economy was recovering and people were feeling confident and our economy was working in the right basis, we would not have vehicles that are 11 years old. It's truly showing that we have major things to do. We got major challenges ahead, and the numbers on housing say we have not addressed it. We talked last week about our program about these offers to give it to rich people, these bad loans, instead of saying, hey, let's do like the farm people had back in the 80s, where the government stepped in, allowed them to write down that debt and help them refinance their farm so they could keep their farm. And today it's worth 10 times what it was in those days. We at least need to offer to our fellow citizens to see that government, if they're going to write down the value of these homes, which I believe they have to do, and replace those 30-year mortgages with a 15-year mortgage so common people can get a house paid for and keep it paid for. That's the only true affordable housing for common people. And people should not be looking at a home as their investment. It should be the medium that gives them a good standard of living and allows them to go forward and not worry about many of the things they're worrying about today. But the other thing I want to talk about on Romney is the fact that when he was out on the stump, has he just been smiling and not listening? The numbers are starting to show that he's just been talking to people, and he's been talking to the wrong people. The Republican Party has not been putting, which is still going to be their likely candidate, into the realm of real people. And this is my challenge this week to you people that call yourself Republicans, you people that say we must have an alternative to Obama, and I agree. But if we're going to have an alternative to Obama, I'm not saying who I'm voting for at this point in time. I'm saying I got my fingers over my nose because I'm not very happy with my choices either way, as many of you are. But the thing with Romney's tax returns, here's what we have to ask for, people. And we should see that our media people are asking for with Romney. What did he do with the money that he called income from his investments? He only paid 15% tax on it. That's kind of a given at this point, the way he talked. And here we got a candidate that talked about he didn't get much for speaking fees. Now on CNBC or CMS, one of the programs on NBC anyway, talked about his speaking fees. He didn't get much. My math on what they originally said, he was getting about $46,000 per speech. He needs to be told, plain and simple, when you go on the stump, ask how many people are making more than $46,000 a year, and he needs to be talking to those people. He made $46,000 in one speech. These people struggle to make that. In fact, most of the people in this area that work common manufacturing jobs or service jobs aren't making $46,000, they're making $30,000. They're making 50% less than that. They're not 50%, but a third less than that. And I think the Republicans need to get their candidate in touch with people like that. That's my challenge to you today. The other thing, we have to see, did he get some accelerated depreciation on some purchase? Or the biggest thing I want to bring out on the Romney issue is we need to see what he spent his money on, what he spent his income on. The whole purpose of a venting process for a candidate and picking your next leader should be, we want to know who he is. Well, once he shows his tax returns, we need to see what these rich people spend their money on. Why? Because we hear these propagandists like Kudlow on CNBC and the CNBC group saying we got to cut taxes. Rich people create jobs. Let's see how many jobs and what jobs Mitt created in the last couple of years by just living off the fat of the land, living off his investments. Did he buy boats? Did he buy new cars? Did he do something that really created jobs? I think we would find out that what he did were not creating good high-paying jobs, that he wasn't investing it in businesses, rather he was just living the good life. And at the same time now Perry wants to have Newt as the candidate. Well, what did Newt do? He was working for Fannie Mae. Newt was buying his, third wife or whatever the number is at the fancy jewelry store. Had a $500,000 charge account at Tiffany's or whatever the name of the store was. What was Newt doing with his big salary? Was he creating jobs? Because the CNBC crowd, these propagandists of business always want to talk about the millionaire, the more they make, the better it is for us, and the less we make, the better it is for us. And that's bull. And that's why we have a great opportunity here, people, to ask the Republican Party to show us all. Once you show the tax return, let's show what people like Newt and people like Romney, that people that are living off their investment and living off their status, what are they doing with that money? And the truth of the matter is, I think we're going to find that if you truly want to get business going, you have to balance the wealth. You have to spread the wealth around. You have to have a check and balance in the system to see that there is incentive, of course, to be innovative and move forward with technology and this type of thing. But this nonsense, the guy in the back room makes $30,000 a year who really does the work, and the guy in the front room makes $300,000 and $1 million stock option bonus that he only pays 15% on. that's obnoxious. If he owns the company, starts the company, creates the patents, and so forth, fine and dandy. But when we found out with Steve Jobs, who the techies wanted to, what did his massive wealth, what did his U.S. patents that the U.S. made him powerful because of patent, copyright, and those type of things, what did he do? He created 1 million jobs in Asia, and yet dealt here in this country with a 50% profit. For every dollar that he sold in product, he put 50 cents in his pocket, or his company did, and now they sit on more cash than the federal government. That's my whole point. We have to look to see that we start addressing the issues of the day on sound business, on sound fairness, and as a country that says, in God we trust. We have to see what is happening. The other thing we have to see with Mitt, or have the right to see, how has he handled his estate to this point in time? Many people his age have already cut their massive wealth into an estate deal. Is he going to be paying estate tax? Or is he going to basically eliminate? And the point I bring up here is the Walton family. When I was looking the other day at wealth, the Walton family, the 3 remaining siblings of him, each are worth about $25 billion each. If you put those siblings together, they're the richest people in the country. Just think of that, people. This is why we at Inform TV are for wealth and for prosperity, but for prosperity for all. And if we're going to achieve that, we have to let a medium like Inform TV bring people in, bring leaders in to ask and answer some tough questions. And I have to have an opportunity to talk about the hard issues such as pipeline. I have to not be censored by advertisers and say, well, I don't want that piece of pipeline around here because I might have a customer that thinks Obama's way. That is not the way press such as myself is made to function. Our forefathers knew that a guy like myself will ask the tough questions, won't care if people are offended, but they want balance in our system. And the only way we're going to get balance in the system, we have to have a medium like Inform TV up on our TV screens, on the web, both on towers like Select TV and in your homes that have cable. So here's the challenge, people. Make sure that I find a place to put this piece of pipe that you can see, and help me get some advertising, because that's what it takes to bring me to the next level of bringing real people in besides myself to talk to you. Thanks for listening to Inform TV. I'm Alan Repke.